Welcome back to another episode of Working on Juggernauts. I'm Toby Wayne. This is Juggernaut, and I think in this video I'm going to be kind of just shaping up his chestal section, if that's even a proper terminology here. I've kind of warmed up some clay in my hands, and I'm going to just kind of start adding to the chest here. I'm going to be trying to just establish the torso of where I'm going to go with this this piece as far as the stopping point. Let's see. I'm going to be doing a little bit of smoothing, and this is kind of an important step when you're trying to figure out the finish lines of where the molding is going to take place, where when you invert the sculpture upside down and you're pouring your resin in, it's nice to have all of these areas really defined so that and I kind of flare them out a little bit so that when I'm pouring my resin in and I'm doing my slush casting, the resin will pool up in this little bit of a lip so that it gives thickness to that edge so that it's strong and it doesn't have a tendency to want to chip and break. I've seen some castings from other artists that are really, really thin on the edges, and that has a tendency to want to break, chip. So I always I try to think ahead. You have to try to think ahead quite a ways when you're designing a sculpture. It's not just a matter of, oh, I'm just going to do this sculpt and this is how it's going to be. And you have to kind of think about the molding processes. You have to think about your plasti-paste shell, your silicone, undercuts, all that good stuff. And once I get this sculpture, there's a lot of things to think about. But once I get this sculpture up to the point where it's ready to mold, I'm going to have to also block out down underneath so that it doesn't taper down and cause major undercuts this way. I'll probably just fill it all the way in straight down, or cut this off and drop it down so there's not as much clay to try to block in and fill in underneath there. But as the videos go on, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's definitely a planning thing. You have to definitely think about what it is that you're wanting to achieve. You kind of learn those things over time of what works, what doesn't work. Saves you a lot of time and energy and money because that will definitely add up if you make mistakes. Silicone and resins are not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. So you want to make sure that you try to avoid making mistakes. Hence, that's why I'm doing these videos, so that people can understand and learn what not to do. So drop the piece of clay. So they don't make those same costly mistakes that I made when I was breaking into this and learning. So here I'm just basically laying out the groundwork for the chest, and I'm trying to just kind of smooth, and I'll eventually go back in and rake these areas down so it's nice and smooth. And like I said, as I progress further and further into this, I'm going to need to look at some reference magazines, Muscle and Fitness, anatomy books, and the such, to really get a really nice ripped chest and traps. I want to really make sure that that point gets made, that Juggernaut is a beast. It's kind of tricky up underneath this area here because I'm trying to think of the helmet and his head and the proportions. Because I started with the head in the helmet, that could be an issue as far as just overall design. Um, again, of making sure his head isn't too far forward, or that he's got this weird. The Juggernaut character is very bizarre in the sense that he's got this great big dome that covers, 70% or more of his head and neck and chest. So uh, he's an odd one to try to sculpt to begin with, just because you're trying to lay out the overall design. But that's where I should have just went ahead and sculpted in the head, the torso, the neck, the chest, and then sculpted the helmet. But hey, we're doing it the difficult way, I guess. So I don't know. It'll work itself out. I just gotta make sure that I'm true to those forms and all that. Like up in here, technically his chin and his neck should be visible, but I don't want to try to fake that. I need to learn to put that in there, so we'll see. It'll solve itself once it comes down to it, but because technically this helmet sits directly on there really isn't that much of a lip. But hey, he's a Marvel character. He's not real, so I guess I can kind of fake my way through it as much as possible. I know that sounds pretty bad, but sometimes characters that aren't real, you kind of have a little bit more freedom to fake it or BS your way through it. And I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna probably off camera pull up some pictures of some nice muscled torsos here to kind of give some realistic shapes to this torso and chest. And because it is fine-tuned and blown up and you're only seeing this section of it, it is a little more difficult. I guess if I were, again, smart, I would sculpt the thing in its entirety per se and then cut it in, but that's just a lot of extra work. But I think we're gonna be okay. But so now I'm just kind of, and up underneath here is an absolute mess. As you can see, all this is just a complete disaster back here, but I'll hit it with the heat gun and blend it and smooth it all together. And there's weak spots up underneath here, from the clay being added on. So to give this strength up underneath, I'll probably, have to come back up underneath there with clay and melt it down and make it so it fits smooth. So all those pieces are combined and blend together, and they kind of reinforce themselves back there. So right now I'm just kind of establishing that midline of where the chest is going to kind of come in the pectoral region. And again, this is just kind of blocking it in until I can kind of get some good muscle images and kind of establishes some shape. And I've seen some people do Juggernaut with a big barrel chest, big bulbous pecs, and some people have designed him up, where he's more of like a strong man, where he's not as ripped and defined. But I like the ripped and defined look, so that's, I think, what I'm going to do. And then once I get the midline and all that established, then I can, kind of come back in with some pectoral definition that way. And same, in this area here, I can kind of. And in some Juggernaut images, I think I've even seen where he's got like a big, metal thing that comes down over here anyway. So maybe, you know, that I might do some more research on that and see if that's, you know, something that I might want to consider or, you know, pursue. It would blend in, I think, a little better with the overall sculpture in the sense that it's, you know, matches his helmet. So I don't know yet. This sculpture is still really, really early in the designing processes. So right now I'm just kind of establishing shapes and contours and all of that. And I got to try to find a way to blend all of this in because I don't really know exactly how I'm going to blend all of this in just yet, but like I said, it'll start to kind of start to take shape. May have to add a little bit here and there. But and technically his chin is right here, and then his neck would go in, and then this would be collarbone, you know, like out into here. So this might all be cut up underneath, more shaped up underneath of there. But we'll figure it out. I like this tool. This is a good tool. And I want to make sure that I cut, uh, you know, up into these areas here to really separate traps from the shoulders. So I have always kind of went more towards that look of having it cut in and then in. But because this piece is so big, I don't want people to think that these are the shoulders, because in reality, these are the traps. And then you know, I'll have to add, you know, technically the traps would come down and then the shoulders would come out to here. So maybe I'll get, you know, super crazy and I'll have this really wide, you know, base, this really wide bust. I don't know. That's I don't want to, you know, start adding and making things bigger than they should be. But as an artist, you know, and I'm sure all these other artists out here will understand and know, you can't really uh, stifle them or confine them. They're going to do what they want to do. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But this is a, you know, kind of a good start to kind of smoothing out this chest and kind of getting the basic shapes in, knocking down the high points, adding to the low points. Once I find that bodybuilder that I'm really digging as far for looks that I want to base this after, then I'll study them and look at their body forms and how they've got their muscles and stuff, and I'll mimic that. But we'll see how it kind of goes. Until then, I'll just start kind of doing what I kind of have an understanding of, and the rest will follow. And I like the idea of having him just the overall shape just roll down and then come in this way. There was a drawing I had seen that somebody had done of Juggernaut, and I really liked it a lot because it was just one of those uh, looks that it just embodied Juggernaut as a whole. It was just one solid mass. So I may end up doing that too, where I fill in a lot of the space and just kind of establish just him as a mass, an unstoppable force. I like that. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're at about the 20-minute mark, somewhere in there for this video. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. I appreciate you guys following me along in this journey of working on this character. I've always liked Juggernaut. Let me know if you want to see some more detailed video of the sculpting of the teeth and the mouth. This angle that I've got going on is pretty nice. I can, it's out of my way, but it's still a pretty decent shot. It's not as close as I'd like to get it for you guys and gals, but I don't know. I'll just have to, keep uploading different angles, and just let me know which ones you like and what you'd like to see. I don't want to make these videos super long because I think everybody's attention span kind of wanes off after about 20 minutes. So anyway, thank you guys for checking this video out, and I will catch you in the next video.